of the Public Service Commission on Gross Seal. And I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we'll call the roll. Costick here. Kennedy.
Here.
Schmidtke.
Present, sir.
Stanko.
Here.
Biddle.
Here.
And Mr. Pedestris is excused for this evening. And David Nadu.
Speaking.
We have a quorum. I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Moved and supported the agenda be approved for tonight's meeting. Are there any additions, suggestions, deletions? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Agenda's approved. Next, we have the minutes of the August 13th meeting. And I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Yeah, you can. I
I
don't
can.
think you weren't here. Somebody else second?
Support.
You do supports? Are there any corrections?
There was the one correction under, I think, the first paragraph, Chairman Biddle, which, unless he's been promoted, he's a
No.
commission member, so we'll
No.
make that change.
Yeah. Change that.
Say commissioner. Taking over for me.
No.
Too late.
All right, if there are no other suggestions or changes, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. I think it was unanimous. I didn't ask if there was anybody opposed. So, next, we have approval of the vouchers for the month of August. You've all had a chance to look at them. I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers.
I will second it.
Moved and supported. Any questions about the vouchers? If there are none, all in favor of approval of the vouchers indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The vouchers are approved. Next, we have a review of a statement of revenues and expenditures for our water, sewer, and refuse funds. We normally receive and file those. We're 5 months through the fiscal year.
42%?
Yep, and I looked through them, and everything looked normal to me. Any comments from anybody? Hearing none, we'll just accept the statement of revenues and expenditures through the month of August. And the next item is approval of the treasurer's report for the month of August.
I'll make a motion, we approve the treasurer's report for August.
There's support. Second. Moved and supported that the treasurer's report be received and approved for the month of August. Are there any comments? Derek, I do have one comment on page 16. I don't know if this is after we've made our payments, but it looks like we have 1.2 million in the road fund left, mostly the bond money.
Yeah, and that's, most of our payments have been made for the work that was done.
Look forward, I know you're going to have some comments later, but it looks like we have that $1 million that we could program for next year.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's been moved and supported. Questions been asked. All in favor of approval of the treasurer's report indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The treasurer's report is received. Next item on the agenda is a recommendation to the Gross Seal, a recommendation from the Gross Seal engineers and our commission itself that we recommend to the Gross Seal Township Board the award of a contract with process piping and equipment at a cost of $244,000 plus a 10% contingency for recommendations of sludge transfer pump and slurry pump contract award. These are two new pumps at the wastewater treatment plant. Derek and Ryan, I'll let you explain.
All right, if you want to jump up there and help me out. During the budget process, we always review with the operator any capital improvements that they foresee needing to occur in the upcoming fiscal year. We had, I believe, 4 or 5 items on this year's capital improvement budget, with the top priority being this work, which is the replacement of the sludge transfer pump and the replacement of the slurry pump. We went out to bid, received 2 bids. They did come in slightly over, actually double what we had anticipated in our budget. The low bidder was $244,000. The engineer has made a recommendation to move forward with the low bidder process pipe, and that's what you're seeing before you this evening. If it is recommended by this commission, it would then go to the board for their approval. And Ryan, maybe you want to touch base about what the operation is of these pumps and the necessity for it.
Okay. Hello, everyone. The sludge transfer pump is how we run our loads of sludge every week. So that's how we actually process our primary and secondary sludges at the plant. So that's typically, it's got to be done 2 to 3 days a week. So that pump, it's a transfer pump, and it's an original pump. I think it's from the late 60s, so it's an original pump. And then the lime slurry pump is the same style of pump, and that pump is what pumps our lime slurry into the mix tank, and you need the lime to stabilize the sludge. So in that process, it's both the transfer pump and this lime slurry pump, which we need. And the lime slurry pump is probably 15 plus years old, and we've been having issues with it. So that's why I added it in there, that we might as well just replace it before we have an issue. And this was all next on the list of importance at the plant. If anything happened with these pumps, then you'd have to rent pumps, and it'd be a nightmare, so.
So these were discussed at budget time as well.
I had it in the budget.
Sludge transfer pump, it's over 50 years old.
Yep.
The question
original one.
that occurs to me when I saw, I know we talked about it before, but 50 years for a pump.
Yep.
That lasted a long time.
Did.
And the lime slurry pump it runs in tandem with that.
Does, yeah.
So they're both needed. And the original amount of budget for this, for the, I guess for both of the pumps was $115,000. The bids came in at $244,000, much higher than we thought. And sometimes you don't have a chance to price these things in advance, right? Get quotes for them.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of this, the overage is labor. Where that is, it's 5 stories. It's on the lowest level of the plant, so it's just a lot of legwork, a lot of labor. It's a real small area, and but I just think that's the labor rates. And then we also got another quote from Sorensen's, which was about the same price. So I guess that's what the rate is.
I would also say that I think when the budget was put together, these are the prices for the pumps. And when we actually went to bid, it was slightly different than what was in the budget. The scope of work actually was expanded. So I know we added quite a bit of piping replacement that wasn't initially anticipated with the budget amount. And then also, I think there's some electrical work that's being done with it as well.
There's like an electrical panel, which is with the pump, that we didn't know that we were gonna need that, and that alone is like 40 grand. So that's so right there, because this pump, it has pressure and temperature sensors with it, so if it if it senses a high pressure, high temperature, it turns itself off, so it's just newer, technology. So that's, and you need that with this pump. So, you know.
Now, reading through the description of the work for both pumps, it is quite extensive.
Yep.
Quite a number of things to be done, so it's understandable.
And I was off on my estimate, honestly, but
It's okay. A lot of extra work's being done.
Yep.
And it needs to be done, get this finished, so that when the plant is finished with the current ACO requirements,
Mhm.
the big expansion, you won't have to do this
no, we won't.
and
Yep.
that should be our goal, I think.
Right.
So, Derek, you had suggested that we may have to delay some of our other purchases if we want to stay close to within budget.
Yeah, when we had put the budget together this fiscal year, we had tried to keep the capital expenditures within the revenue without going into fund balance. Because the way that we had designed the millage for the ACO improvements, we had actually delayed the capture of the millage amounts until next fiscal year. And that was to alleviate pressure on the residents as far as their millage rates. So we were funding bond payments from retained earnings for the ACO work until that millage ended up coming and being levied, right, for next year. So the concern was just to make sure that, you know, with that drawn capital reserves, that we had an adequate amount of cushion in case there was, you know, an emergency. We didn't want to overtax our capital reserves, our fund balance with, you know, a significant amount of capital improvements above and beyond what the revenue for that year could support. I did talk to the chairman earlier this week, and both him and I had a great conversation about, you know, it might make sense to do these things while there is current work going on at the plant, as was mentioned earlier, to just try to get them out of the way. I spoke with the finance director today, and I'm waiting on final numbers for fund balance. So if we feel like we're in a comfortable position with what we have in reserves after this work is complete and our projections look okay, you know, we could consider doing these other jobs within this fiscal year, so long as, you know, we're still healthy on our fund balance amount. These additional jobs weren't overly pricey. I mean, I think we were looking at about another $100,000 in work.
That's about it.
Yeah. So, and that was the budget amount, so we would have to bid them, and see how they end up coming in. But I can report back to the commission once I have those numbers. I asked her for them today, so she was going to work them up as soon as she could, and then I could report back to you.
To the commission, what I was thinking is, as I looked at this, particularly the first item you were talking about putting off till next year, was the lime mixer. The gearbox had to be rebuilt. And I think the estimated cost was about $30,000 for that. And that ties in my mind, I see it, that we're replacing the lime slurry pump. Don't they tie together?
Well, the lime mixer is what mixes that lime slurry tank that the lime slurry pumps out of. All it is, it's just a mixer. And I don't think we're not going to need any engineering on that or nothing. It's like a lightning mixer, and we can just, you buy the rebuild, and then we actually, well, it's a refurbished unit. It's like new, and then we send our old one in, and then it's like half as much. And then I was just thinking about having their specialists out who can just install that. It just makes it easier that person knows what they're doing, and that would take maybe like a day, and then it's in. So then there's no engineering, there's no, you know, and I don't think it's that much or that extra.
So it's a
labor.
gearbox you buy?
Yeah, it's just a gearbox.
The other,
First gearbox.
Yeah.
And then whatever labor, a day's labor is.
Yeah, so it takes a guy 8
10,000.
hours. It's just times, you know, how much an hour, and then it's done. So that one's not really. Yep.
then there's the equalization basin monster rebuild. Is that similar, where you,
Channel Monster, it's the same
Channel
thing
Monster.
where you have them actually come out where they can actually do all that right on site there. We have a crane that's just, it's right over that channel monster. They basically just pull our old one out, and they'll just replace all the parts which are needed, and then just and lower it in. So it's like the same thing. They just rehab it right there on site. So with that one, there's no engineering either, which is easy.
Okay, and then the other one that we had budgeted, but if we try to stay within budget, was and I'm going to say it's AMIAD SFE system, auto filter bleach feed system.
Yeah, it's an AMIAD. It's our plant water system, a pressure. It's actually it's like an automatic filter. So basically, what it does, it takes our effluent that leaves the plant, and that's our hose water, and also our bleach feed water at the plant. That unit was 30 grand, but then it'd be a little bit of labor for to remove the old unit and then just install the new unit. It's like for like on that one, it's the same model but just the newer one. So you might have a little bit of labor on that one, but I don't think any engineering. So
Okay, so tonight, I
Yeah.
think what we're going to do is, I was in favor of trying to move forward with all of it, amending our budget, because eventually, Dave, we got to go to the township board with a proposed budget amendment for the particular line items in the wastewater treatment fund, rather than put these things off. But it sounds to me like these are things that you're going to have to get involved in each one of them.
yeah, and we could have ordered in my mind. I would think we could accomplish these like after the new year, so like maybe February, March, so it's still within the budget year.
Okay, so what I was going to suggest is that we make the approval tonight on the purchase of the 2 pumps. And ask Derek
Yep.
and Ryan to come back with the situation with the finances relative to fund balance and what it would take to amend our budget at our next meeting. So we would recommend doing this. I mean, we have money to do it, to purchase the 2 pumps.
Yeah, within the budget year, yep.
And we can decide then, whether we come back next month or in November, do we want to authorize it so that it could be installed before next April 1st? Or
The remaining work, is that what you were saying?
the items I just,
Yeah, there's 3
the lime mixer, the amide system
The
auto
amide.
filter,
Yep.
and the channel monster. And make a decision then, and of course, we'll have to rely on you. You're the chief financial guru here, and
Yeah, we'll figure that out and we can bring it back. If we can fit it in, we'll fit it in.
I'm sure as we look to next year, and I know we were trying to keep our what we call smaller capital improvements a year at around 300,000 or less. And so we'll have next year to look forward to as well, but we can talk about it. That's all I'm saying. I just hate to delay things too much.
We also have the ACO that'll be wrapping up and we'll figure out, where that comes in relative to the bond revenue and, that millage in the bond revenue was for sewer-related work in addition to the ACO. So, we might be able to do some stuff out of those funds if it comes in under budget. So we've got a number of things that are in flux right now that we got to try to get closed out to figure out exactly what position we're in. We should have a better idea within the next couple of months. This one here, it's $100,000 estimated for those 3, so it's not a big deal. I'll check fund balance and see where we're at, and then I can come back with a recommendation on that. But speaking down the road, we'll take a look at where we're at with the ACO for other stuff as well.
Just a side issue, if we have to spend a few $1,000s to bring the specialists in who install this equipment all the time,
Yeah.
rather than have our staff do it, I'd be in favor of that. I don't know how you all feel. So, what I'm thinking is, somebody would make a motion to approve the purchase this evening, and we'll put off the examination of a budget amendment until either October or November, whenever the staff comes back to us. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
So the motion I would like to have somebody make is to make the purchase at this time as for the lime slurry and sludge transfer pumps at a cost of $244,000 to process piping and equipment. That's the motion.
Plus the contingency.
Plus the contingency, I'm sorry. So the recommended amount would actually be $268,400.
I'll make that motion.
Moved and supported. Are there other questions about this?
Yeah, I got a question. Are those pumps made in the United States? Or is it
Leave
same?
Ohio. There's CPEX pumps. They're based out of Ohio.
Okay,
The level 1 sludge transfer pump and the lime slurry pump. Hamlet Environmental, who reps
Okay.
a lot of other type of equipment. So yeah, they're actually located right in Ohio. So if we need like a stator or anything, but yeah, I'm pretty positive it's American made. Yep. CPEX.
okay, that's my question. As long as it didn't say
Yeah.
Chinook.
Nope. I don't think so.
If they did, we'd have to rebid it, I guess,
Yep,
right,
so
Les?
it's quality stuff. You're getting some good stuff.
Okay, so we have a motion that's been supported. Are there any other questions? If not, all in favor of making the purchase or authorizing it, the recommendation to the Township Board, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Ryan. And since Ryan's up here, is there anything else you want?
Yeah, I guess the project update, together.
Yep.
Yeah, he can cover things at the plant and I'll handle other stuff.
Okay,
That work?
yeah.
Okay. The sanitary sewer township-wide project, Art has been on site for a couple of months. I'm sorry, probably a month and a half. And we're finishing up phase 5 of the cleaning and televising. That's been going pretty well. So we will continue on with the first phase, as they wrap up phase 5, move on to the first phase, and that work will be going, through the fall and the winter time. So, we've been pretty happy with the work they've been doing so far. So that's, where we're at with the, cleaning and televising. If you recall, we have quite a bit of, manhole and, sewer line rehabilitation that we're gonna be doing. But those, funds that we're using for that project, they are federal dollars, so we're waiting on clearance from EPA on the project and its design, and SHPO specifically, which is the State Historical Preservation Office. So it's kind of comical that they want historical clearance on sewer lines because they're old enough to qualify as historical. So, and they're underground and nobody sees them, but nonetheless, the federal government still wants a review done on those. So we're just waiting on clearance to be able to bid that project. And once we receive that, we'll put that project out to bid, and we estimate that at right around like $2.5 million. So HVAC, Ryan, maybe speak to that a little bit. Raines has on here that the project is slated to start in September. I know that some materials have already been ordered. I don't know if
Yep.
they've mobilized over there yet or not.
We did have a meeting, like a kickoff meeting this week at the plant with all the contractors involved, and that work is actually supposed to start on 9/23. And the way that is going to work is that we're going to still be able to run our lab. We'll have a makeshift wall in the lab, and we can run the lab on one side of the lab, and they can work and do all the work on one side, and then when they're complete, like with the ceiling work and the air ducts, then we'll just move our lab on to the other side of the lab, and then they'll complete on so we can operate our lab while all this is happening. and that's obviously heat and air for the lab and office. And it looks like they were supposed to have it all complete by mid-November, which is good news because that's kind of when, you know, we start needing the heat. So that works out, and that's great.
Good.
So
And
I'm
that,
happy about that.
that's also being funded through federal dollars, and
Yep.
one of the provisions of those federal dollars is there's a Buy American provision. So Les, you'll be happy to know that all the materials have to be made in United States that were part of that project. So next is the ACO work.
The ACO work at the plant, the new effluent flow line is all done. It's all complete. However, we have a little issue with where we're receiving a lot of water that's coming back into the plant. So our sump pump on level 1 is like footing drains around the plant. So if it rains or there's any like water that's around the plant, well, we noticed that after this final connection where the main effluent line connects to the chlorine contact chamber, we believe that there might be a small leak in that area. So because that sump pump used to run once a day, now it runs every about 15 minutes. So Sea Rains has looked at it, and they had a company come in and spec for, it's like a liner that will line that whole area where we think that we're having a leak, or it's just because of all the excavation that we're getting water in from the canal, maybe, or I don't really know. So hopefully after this liner is installed, that flow of water that is coming in goes back to how it used to be. And that's an issue because if that sump pump, I mean, it's made to run around the clock, but not every 15 minutes. And if something happened to that pump, level 1 could just, flood with water. So it's not good.
Is there any way that you can put a camera through all of that system to verify that and locate where there may be a crack or where there may be some?
Well, that's what we kind of, we did that, yeah. Sea Rains, they hired somebody who was in here last week or week before, but we're basically just lining where we think that the leak is.
And I think what some of that camera identified was, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but that pipe had been lined in the past, and that liner
yeah.
separated from the pipe. So it's not,
During the construction.
yeah, it's not connected like it should be. So that's where the suspected issue is. If it was lined before and now it's compromised, it was
Yep.
lined for a reason, right? So,
The effluent pipe, is that, was it 4 or 5 foot diameter pipe?
Yeah, it's the main pipe that it's after all the final clarifiers. So that pipe it's the main effluent pipe that then goes to the chlorine contact chamber, which is where the bleach is added. And then after it goes through there, it goes into the river.
From the chlorine contact
Yeah.
structure
Yeah, it's a tank. Yep.
to the canal? We didn't do any work there.
Not there, so we
Connecting the
suspect it's
clarifier
from
to the chlorine contact.
exactly where it
Oh.
connects and where the liner.
So the liner was in, so
Yep.
the liner was in a section of pipe we didn't do anything with.
It may have been maybe altered or hit or
Something.
just, and we just, once compo was complete, I noticed getting all this water in. It's like, that's not normal. So we're like, well, what happened, And then we just kind of investigated. and I believe that Compost saw where there was an area that was kind of where they're leaking. They patched it, and it didn't improve, but it's not like it used to be. So that's suspecting that.
Where's the water coming from? The footing drains? Or from, it's not
I
coming
would
from the
say
canal, right? It's not coming
our
from the canal.
effluent flow.
Oh, so it's leaking, the effluent
Yup.
flow is leaking.
Yeah, so I think when we did the tour, directly east of the office space, that big hole that was there, that's the effluent pipe going from the final clarifiers over to the chlorine contact chamber. So it's that stretch of pipe there is where the issue was. So it's potentially leaking out of that pipe and going into the footing drains
Yeah.
of the plant.
Which is after the bleach, and it does kind of smell like a little bleachy, which means it's probably, it's right there from the effluent pipe, onto the chlorine contact chamber, which it's all being captured and put back into the plant. So it's just going right around. It's going around in a circle. But so hopefully with this liner that takes care of the problem and everything goes back to normal. So I guess we'll just have to wait, see if that.
How is the liner installed? Do you have any idea?
I think it's like an inch that maybe it's all the way around, like in the whole structure.
Pipe.
And they had to measure it, with a camera, and all the measurements of the liner has to be custom made. So we're just waiting on a confirmation from Sea Rains, I believe. And once we have that, I guess it's another about 3 weeks until we can have it installed. And,
It was like a cured in place, so they.
Here in place.
They
So
put it in.
that's something we have to do. I don't think there's any question.
Yeah, and it's underneath the ACO work, and I think it's
Yeah.
$33,000, something
Yep.
like that.
and it was,
We have a contract that Rains is using from another community, where they're doing lining work, so we brought that over to use that. But nonetheless, it's an emergency repair. We've got to get it
You're
done.
aware of it. and-
Yep.
Okay.
it was unforeseen, but hopefully that resolves that, so we'll be okay in the meantime. But
Well, on that, I have one final issue on that
Yeah.
effluent pipe. Now that that pipe's installed, are they going to be able to do some grading now to level things out a little bit in that area?
well,
Between the clarifier and the
clarifier
end of
and
the pipe?
I mean, right now it's like a makeshift road. It's gravel. And I would imagine here, maybe in a week or two, we'll start the paving work. Before winter, obviously.
So they're gonna do the site grading is what I'm asking about.
Oh yeah, yep,
Not just paving, but
yeah,
because it's kind
yep.
of hard for you guys to walk around before they activate the clarifier. I'm sure that'll all be cleaned up.
It will be. Yep. So
And I think, Ray, you had asked when we did our tour, what kind of warranty, that it's a year warranty on the clarifier. And they were going to look at those issues that you had mentioned. I think they were aware of them, but they were going to go back and look at them again, and then they'll work with the contractor to seal any of those up.
Okay.
If they feel that that's necessary. So
All right,
I did talk to Rains about that.
thank you.
Yep. Okay.
next on the ACO work is the raw sewage pump for replacement, which is next on the list. It's one of the last items of the ACO work, and that's happening in like a week or two. So what's kind of special about this is we have to seal off the wet well of the plant, because where they're going to be working on level 1 there, all the water that's on the other side of the wall has to all be emptied so that it's safe to work. So we have to divert the flow into the EQ basin, wet well, and then we use an EQ basin pump as our raw sewage pump, and we can bring the flow back through the plant. When we had the DuParon Flex Rake installed 4 years ago, we did this exact same operation, and it worked out. It's just that the sewer level will be significantly higher because you have to back up the system a little bit so that it fills the EQ basin wet well, and then basically we just operate like that, maybe for like a month or two, hopefully no longer than that. So we're actually just making sure that it's all going to work right, because that's SCADA stuff that everything is going to work. Yep. But that's all I got.
Okay.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Nothing new on the asset management plan. For the sewer system, we talked about tonight the Lyman slurry pump and the transfer pump. So that'll go to the board in October. Water system and asset management plan and the water system reliability plan, those are both in process and should be hopefully complete by this winter. And I think we'll utilize that information on the next round of bonding and water capital improvements. So that'll give us the information we need to determine what our priority projects should be. And we covered the available money that we would have when those bonds fall off, I think at a previous meeting. Hydro excavating of the service lines, that's about complete. I believe we did right around 50 or 55. So that information will be sent to the state with those we identified, word lead and
That's
which
the
ones
lead
were not.
pipes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And just as a reminder, that was funded by a grant, so we'll have to voucher down those expenditures. But that work, I believe, was wrapped up last week. I think there were like 3 more locations they were going to do, but I think for the most part that was all done. So
I just want to comment on the water reliability study. When we get that study, one of our targets next year is going to be to take on another series of water projects. And the way we financed it in the past is through a revenue bond. And Derek's been really good about getting that done, so we'd issue a revenue bond for whatever our bond payments were, retiring debt, and we're going to renew new debt. And whatever we've been spending, we would see how much we can bond against that money. It might be $1 million, might be $2 million, I don't know what it would be. And take on some more water main projects that are needed. So I'm looking forward to that.
yeah, and I think if you go back to that memo I wrote a couple of meetings ago, it's got the dollar amount that we would probably buy. I want to say it was like right around $2.5 million, something like that. So
I think you're right, yeah, that's what I recall.
So, and we'll just follow that list that's generated from the reliability study and the asset management plan and just knock out the highest priority projects that we have.
If anybody's listening, our goal would be to make some replacement improvements in water lines that need it, but not increase, what we're going to do is not going to increase our overall budget
Correct.
or the water rates to
Yep.
people.
And when the engineers put that asset management plan together and they make recommendations for what we do first, they consider a lot of different things. They consider the age, how many water main breaks you've had, the construction material, what they consider to be the consequence of failure. So, if there are sensitive, assets on that stretch of water main, like if there's a couple of schools or, public safety department or something like that, it rates higher. So they consider all those different things, and then they give us that information on what we should be working on first. So we'll consider that once we get that. And it'll be great timing because it's right as the bonds expire, and we should be able to roll right into capital improvements after that.
Look forward to it.
Paving projects, for the most part, we're done. We do have a couple of issues that I'm working out with the engineers on some of the roads that were paved, small stretches of road. but we haven't paid the contractor for that work until they give us a plan on what to address and how they're going to address it. For the most part, all the roads were fine. We just got a couple that we have some issues with. So, and I know that we wanted to talk about roads for next year. And that's later on in the agenda here. But I don't have anything further on any other projects to report on.
Okay, the next item is the water loss report.
Slightly better than last month, 23.997%. We were at 20% for last month, or July. GLWA is usually like 2 months behind, so our water bills, I've got like current all the way through the end of August, but I gotta wait for GLWA bills to come in, and they're always behind. That's why it's not closer to where we're at, so.
Les, any questions?
Nope. Looks good.
Okay,
Can I ask a question?
yes.
Back to your report, Derek, you mentioned that the new contractor is finishing up phase 5 of the televising of the sewer. We're not paying double for this,
No.
are we?
No, we never paid we didn't pay the previous contractor.
Didn't pay the previous
Right,
contractor.
for that
okay.
work that they did not do.
Right,
Yes.
okay. And then my next question is just general. I see they must have denied the use of fiber reinforced mix.
On Ferry, yes.
Yeah, what is that and why did they not approve it, or what was can you give any background on that
Sure.
just very briefly?
So we had petitioned the county to utilize I believe it's a Kevlar reinforced asphalt mix. So basically fiber material is mixed right into the asphalt, and when you do your overlay, that's the composition of the material. And what it does is it helps to hold the material together, especially when you're doing, not an overlay, but a mill and fill. So you don't have as much of a risk of having reflective cracking coming through from the substrate or from the material below. And because it's a county road, we had to ask for permission to use that type of material. And because the county doesn't recognize it as a acceptable material, and they haven't used it elsewhere in the county under their contracts, they wouldn't permit us to use that. So unfortunately, we had to go with just a standard mix. I think our engineers were excited about trying this new material. Doesn't mean that what was put out there was substandard or anything like that, but we wanted to give that a try to see what kind of results we would get with it. I guess there's pretty good data out there that shows that it is effective, but we just ended up going with the standard county mix that was allowed by them.
Bulletproof vests out of Kevlar, I would
Right. Yeah.
could
So,
Should last.
be effective. But so the reason is, once again, Wayne County is the caboose of the train.
yeah, it does get frustrating when, the township is paying for it and they still have, a hand in how the project is done. Although I understand it's their road, they own it. We're just doing work on it. But we also see that sometimes when, we have to pay, or they ask us to pay, and we always ask for them to be waived, permit fees to do work on their roads too. So at least they could do is not bother us with those, when we're doing work on their roads. But nonetheless, that's always a challenge that we have to address, which is frustrating, but is what it is.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and I see John is not here, and
Yes. He didn't have anything for me to report, other than I know he's working on the lead service line compliance reporting to the state, so that's in process right now.
next our moving on, right?
Yep, everybody got a copy of the bridge letter that went out to the county. It was sitting at your desk, I think, when you showed up for the meeting. I know that the county had been requested to give us a response, I believe, by the 10th. I have not received a response to that letter as of today. I do know, as was mentioned, I think, at the last meeting, that the DPS department does have a new director, and that happened. We knew that was happening, but it did happen during the time period that this letter went out. So it's my intent to, contact him and find out, what his response is to that, being that we haven't gotten anything back from DPS yet. So that's all I have to report at this point. I think that there were some slight modifications from the letter that was presented to you at the meeting. There were some suggested modifications. I think, those have been incorporated into that letter. So it's just there for your reference. And I should be able to report to you shortly about what I hear from them, once I reach out to them, because they haven't gotten a hold of us as a result of that yet.
So we by the time we got the letter redone and all that, they've only had like 2 weeks to respond.
Right.
I know we want to try to keep some kind of relationship, particularly with you and township supervisor. We don't need to worry about it. We can be the devil's bad guys, but it is concerning. So I guess one thought I was going to ask the commission, what should we do about it? Should we send another letter and send a copy to Warren Evans, the county executive, and say we sent this letter and nobody responded? But the letter was directed to Mr. Andrew Candrivas, who at the time was director, and he's no longer, is he gone from the county now?
No, he's still with the county. I think he's in the executive's office.
So I guess the best thing for us to do is, I guess I'd like the commission to set a new date for a response. Should it be our November meeting or our October meeting?
I would agree with that. That gives them an extra month.
Is there somebody else you can copy this letter into besides him if he's not on the?
We'll let Derek figure it out.
Yeah, I can follow up on that.
So I went to several people, and it concerned me that I went to three people plus Mr. Candrivas at the county, including Joel Palmera. And Joe got a copy of it, right?
I believe he did, yes.
So Derek and I will make a contact with Joe as well. I know Joe very well. He used to be my neighbor here on the island. That's how I know Joe. And he's normally very responsive, so.
Is there,
So, go ahead.
go back, you said there is a new director that has been named, Derek?
There is. I don't even think they have his contact information up on their website yet. But I do have his name.
I was just thinking a little bit outside the box of maybe inviting him to the next meeting to kind of meet with us so we can kind of talk about, some of the substance of what these letters are or what's in this letter, just to kind of, introduce ourselves to him and vice versa to us. I don't know whether that's something that,
I think that's a great idea, Derek, the reason I think, now it's going to be up to you and Jim, I guess, but why I think it's a great idea, off the cuff, is we made a commitment. We went back to the voters in 2015 and 2018 and then in 2022 and asked them to step up, and they did in 2022. We're spending millions of dollars on the roads that are the township's roads because they're not going to do it. Right? So, and I appreciate the voters approving it, so we've made a lot of improvements. We still have these bridge problems, these smaller bridges, Ferry Road, Swan Island Bridge, Elba Island Bridge, and people need to rely on these bridges. And plus, we still have facing Meridian Road, because in our road millage, we assumed that the plan that the county had was to continue down Meridian from Island Drive, where it ended last year, all the way to Church and then on to the Bridge Road with the resurfacing. That's a big expense, and you don't know where that stands either.
Well, I can speak to that. I spoke with the county Tuesday, maybe? Wednesday last week. And so the issue with Meridian, and they still plan on repaving Meridian at that distance from Island down to Bridge. The issue is the recently adjusted load limits on the Free Bridge prohibit them from bringing full loads of asphalt onto the island to do the repaving work. And this is like, 3 miles or 2 miles of road. So it's a lot of material they have to bring over here when they do it. And it's also bringing the material, so when they mill it, they take it off the island. So it's not only coming on, but going off. So what they need to do is to fix those pressure plates on the bridge to restore the load limit that it was before the recent reduction, before they can do the repaving or Meridian. So I did speak with him about what the expectation should be about when all that was going to happen, and he said that they're aiming for still paving Meridian yet this construction season. So they're trying to fit that all in within the next couple of months. So plants usually close on November 15th. So, we only got basically 2 months left. So he had hoped to have more information about the bridge repairs that would allow the load limits to go back up so that he could get an exact date when the paving could occur. So he said to stand by and wait, and he'll get a hold of me and let me know once things have been finalized. So that's the most recent update.
Well, I appreciate that, and my feeling is the worst sections are from Island through Church to Highland. There are some terrible sections through there, especially in the southbound lane. And if they can't do it all, if they could do some of it, it would be a big deal as far as I'm concerned. But following up on Ray's, we'll see how the rest of the board feels. I would favor inviting them, but if they can't make it, we would at least like a response to our letter. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to set up, a relationship, where if we had a chance, if we can convince him to come here, we might be able to take him and show him some of these bridges that, are deteriorating. All right, the roads, the roads are going to be the roads. Everyone knows roads deteriorate, but when you see some of the bridges and how, dilapidated they are, right, that's going to have a whole different mindset as far as a priority to try and address those issues. And most importantly, the key thing is, and we don't really want to put too much pressure on them, but we do want to let them know how actively we're working to try and solution our own problems and how we want to partner with them and just, start to build that relationship rather than via, emails, letters, phone calls. So that was
The idea
genesis of my
you're
idea.
putting forth is the new director, invite him to come out, and if he does accept, have him bring the guy that's in charge of road maintenance as well. And we can have a general discussion about it. We'll make it the first thing on our agenda, if it would work. And we also want to request that by our meeting date in October, that they respond to the letter. Best they can, whatever it is. We need to know where they stand, right?
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable, Derek? Do you have any,
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Les, do you have any other comments on that?
Nope. Nope.
Any comments on that for anybody else? Okay, so that,
Park Lane, are they even going to fix that one? I've heard that they're not even going to do anything with that one. And it is a safety issue because they still got bikers and walkers and everything going over there.
well,
Park
bike-
Lane Bridge, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
bikers and walkers, the bridge is not gonna
well, if they-
collapse, but I don't, the last I heard, which was a couple years ago, that there was no plan to do anything with it. Lenny brought it up at our last meeting that you were not here, from the fire department standpoint. If they approach the wrong address and they gotta go back around, they're gonna lose a couple minutes of time. But, we can throw that in the mix too, and I think the letter did address
The
that.
letter mentioned Park Lane
Yeah,
and
the letter
Storm.
did.
it did, yeah, it's an excellent letter. I'm just saying that I think there is a safety issue with that one.
Big
'cause-
safety issue with it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but I do know this, that's closed, and the Elba Bridge is a lifeline to people.
Exactly.
There's 70 residents
Yeah.
there. And eventually, the Swan Island Bridge could be the same way. Ferry Road Bridge is a heavily traveled bridge. And nobody's cut off there, but it should be fixed.
Right.
The east abutment of that bridge is in really bad shape.
Oh, yeah.
And I can tell you that Ferry Road, there appears to be some action going on with that. We had a pre-construction meeting a couple of weeks ago with DTE. DTE is relocating some gas lines and replacing some gas lines in preparation of that project. And it sounded like they wanted to get that work done in the next month or so because they're chomping at the bit to start the bridge project itself. So I think there's probably good news about Ferry. The others, though, I'm not aware of
Okay.
any movement to start those.
All right, well, good discussion, thank you. The next discussion item has to do with the road program for next year. And our overriding goal should be is, once Derek can give us the money, we need to come up with a list of projects that we would authorize in November so that the engineers can design the work. And a lot of this work, we get a better price if we bid it in February or March. If you wait till spring, you're not going to get the best prices. Everybody, so my goal, I mean, I think our goal should be that by November, we come up with the list of what we want to do. That's where I'm at.
Yep.
Derek, you want to go through the map?
Yeah, I can. I think to follow up on what the chairman was saying, not necessarily as important are the locations per se. It's more the scope of work and what the DPS commission wants. So is this going to be and I think we've talked about this before, but a concrete program and an asphalt program? Is it going to be an asphalt program alone, or is it going to be a concrete program alone? I will tell you that I think there's enough concrete work left to do from that we identified from last year where we would highly recommend some form of a concrete program. As the chairman had mentioned earlier, we probably have like about $1 million to spend. So what we could do is probably a stretch of asphalt road, maybe $300,000-$400,000, and then $650,000-$700,000, whatever the balance is in concrete, and then we would just kind of like prioritize those areas that we need to have work done and just spend to the limits that we have, and the contracts will just be by unit price, square yard or square footage. Except for asphalt would be a specific road of a length of road. So as we look at these maps, the far ends of the island, the north and the south ends, that's Elba Drive and Meridian. Those two locations are asphalt, and then everything in the middle here is all concrete. Park Lane up by the school is going to be a priority area. Manchester is going to be a priority for concrete. Continue to work over and off of Ferry. We have some areas in the subdivisions we'd like to do that we didn't get to last year in the middle of the island. So what we could do, like I said, is we could do a combination. I think the question for you guys is, do you want to do asphalt work?
I'll speak up first. I like what you just said about splitting it, because I'm aware of the concrete work that needs to be done. And the asphalt work, we'd have to do one or the other, either the south end or north end of Meridian or do Elba.
Right.
I've driven both, and what I want to ask everybody here to do is in the next month or so, if you can, drive these roads and look at these. My own opinion is from the curve on Elba, not, that would be the river side of the bridge, start there and go around. It could be a $300,000 project. And we'd have Elba out of the way. Elba's not in great shape, but all this other work could be concrete. So what you talked about as a split, in my mind, would be a fair split for next year. 600 and some thousand for concrete work, and then do one of the asphalt. I don't think you can do both.
No.
And actually, Meridian, to me, there might be one area that we could do a patch in it, maybe a couple 100 feet. But other than that, it's much better shape than Elba. That's my opinion.
We did a lot of crack sealing on Meridian maybe 2 years ago, a year ago or so. So there's a lot of material down up there. We always try to remember something that the county said. The county basically came out and said there is no money and there's no plans for us to do any residential or neighborhood roads. I think Elba falls into that category where Meridian is more of a major road, which they could potentially get federal money to do that work, right? So I think if you were to ask my opinion, I would side with the Elba, work rather than the Meridian work, just because we would try to work with the county to get them to do that, where Elba's gonna be a harder lift, I think.
And the other thing about Alba, it seems to be breaking up. The alligator breakup in the road is much more noticeable than it is on Meridian. So if we don't do it soon, it's going to just get worse. But a couple of items I'm familiar, so I don't know if you've driven around these. Can I just speak to a couple? You know where Manchester is. So there's the really bad section of Manchester is up by East River Road, and it's quite a big section. And I would say it's a couple 100 feet long. There's another bad section down on the south end. They're both depicted here in the blue colorization. And then
Those are concrete, right?
concrete. All the rest of these in the middle are concrete. I know that Derek's had complaints down in off of Ferry, along West River Road out into the, what's the name of the sub there?
Well, we've had quite a bit of an issue, like Cadillac Circle still. We have a little bit more Park Lane, north of basically Gray's Drive, that intersection there of Park Lane and Gray's Drive to the north of that. Park Lane up at the school. Hampton area is pretty bad. Burning Bush, that area. Palm Meadow Court continues to be an issue there. And then some issues on actually some pad replacements that we would like to see done right off of Parkway Drive. There are some resident complaints up in that area as well, so, or Parkway.
Oh, I see, okay. And then, you know where Park Lane School is, Sacred Heart Church?
Yeah.
That requires there's a lot of work that we can do in there. I don't think the construction of the school addition will interfere with any road work.
No, I think we could do that last, maybe towards the tail end of the summer before school starts, and they should have their construction completed by then. And that's not a whole like road replacement or anything. That's a joint repair.
Yeah,
There's
right.
two really bad joints as you go towards church that we would like to see done.
Longitudinal joints.
Right. Yep.
So take this map and come back, be prepared by our November meeting to try to finalize things. How's that sound?
And think about, maybe drive Elba, and then think about, like, if we're gonna do this split, you know, we can always move it, you know, concrete less and asphalt more, or asphalt less and concrete more. You know, if you do see like a road that's really, really bad that you think falls in one of these categories, or a stretch of road, concrete areas, let us know about those as well. So, you know, we'll try to tailor it based upon, you know, what the priority is.
What constitutes having asphalt or paved? I mean, how bad does it have to, I mean, what would be better for the road? How do you know which would be better? How badly it's broken up?
Yeah, and most of these are,
What's on it now? Like, if it's cement now?
yeah, we wouldn't probably be doing any overlays where we would put asphalt over concrete,
Concrete, okay.
because that causes a bunch of drainage problems, and you got to figure out, you know, how that all works. So whatever the current material is what it would remain for our project. Yep. And if if it's an asphalt road and it's really busted up, you know, chunks coming out of it, it's probably not a good candidate for an overlay. It might get to, or not an overlay, but a mill and fill. That might be like a full reconstruct, and we probably wouldn't be looking at that for next year. That might be something down the road, because full reconstructs are, you know, pretty expensive.
Well, I've been down Elba, and it certainly needs to be done. That's one.
And Derek, maybe staff can get a larger map, you know, the one that's twice as big as this, and really zero in on some of these
Sure.
areas a little better so we can take a better look at it. And I know, like Manchester, I think the blue on here, it's just supposed to
Yeah.
show an area, but
Yeah.
it's certainly not that much of an
Right,
area.
right. And it's interesting because, you know, as we're out doing work in the community, at least this past summer when we were doing work in the community, the word gets out like, hey, the township's out doing concrete repairs. And we'll be getting all kinds of phone calls about, hey, well, what about mine? So, we end up keeping a running list of those people that reach out to us, and then we go out and take a look at those locations to see if it's warranted and legitimate. So we don't even have to find these. People get a hold of us and let us know where there's a problem area. So we've got a list of those that we maintain, and we have it in the office. And, we would try to address those if they were legitimate under that project. So, we always want to try to be as responsive as we can to the residents. And I think that goes a long ways with, the residents, appreciation of the township, taking care of these problems, so.
And I always want to look at Gray's Drive. It's not in bad shape right now, but there are a couple spots that could use some dressing up, concrete section repairs or longitudinal line repairs. So I'll leave that up to you and John to come back and try to come up with something if we need to do something there. When we do the schools, we always bid it so that they have to start right after school starts.
Right.
Or ends in June, and have to be done a week before school resumes. So, anyway, anybody have anything to add to this at this point? Okay, well, I guess that's the end of that, and I don't have anything further to report on, so I'll ask the commissioners. Dave?
Just want to mention that next Wednesday, the 18th, will be the next toll bridge informational meeting here in the boardroom, 6 o'clock. But it'll be on TV and then put on,
What day? I'm sorry, September 8th?
yeah, next Wednesday,
Oh, okay.
September 18th.
I'm glad you did. So you've also published the dates. There's one in October. I think it's the 9th. So
It's the
September
9th.
18th and October 9th.
Correct.
And I was out of town when you had the first one. Did you fill the room up?
There was about 75 people.
Right, about 75.
Pretty much filled the room.
And so it's good. It's broadcast on cable, the whole meeting is?
Yes, and also a copy of the presentation that was given is on the website, if you want to
Website.
view the presentation that was given. Also, a lot of the meeting model was based off of the FAQ document that was put out as well. A lot of the same questions and answers were addressed at the meeting. That's available on the website too, so you can go on there and get the FAQ. You can look at the presentation that was given. You can go online and watch the meeting on cable TV. You can also go to YouTube and pull up Groseal Township's YouTube page, and the meeting will be on there that you can watch and fast forward through certain portions if you want. You don't have to watch the whole thing. So that's available there as well. So
I think the FAQs will also be in the Groseal Grand next month.
there will be an article or an insert in the Groseal Grand that'll have a lot of information in it. That'll be mailed to every home. So we've got to still work out exactly the content of that and what that's going to look like with the Groseal Grand, but everybody will be getting something in the mail from the
This month, there'll be an article just on the financing, certainly not as extensive as the question.
Was there any new FAQs that were added to the original ones as a result of the last meeting?
I don't believe so. That document has not been modified.
Okay.
I think it's our intent to take any questions that we received as part of that meeting or following that meeting and incorporate those into the presentation that will be given next Wednesday,
Okay.
to try to address any of those questions that weren't already addressed.
If there is something that you're going to put out, I would make it as an addendum to the original set. So someone, like myself, I've read through all the FAQs, very well written, very nice, but if there's something else that comes up as a result of these meetings and you're going to add that into that base document, I'd put it on, at the tail end, say these are, new additional FAQs that came up in subsequent meeting type of a thing, so people can kind of refer to that.
Don't recall any new questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were a number of clarifications, I think, that were asked about. But we've got notes from that meeting, and it's a great point, Amendment 1 or something like that, or
Yeah,
Addition 1 or something.
Just kind of keep a running dialogue of,
Right.
here's all the questions that did come up, here's where we started from, here's where we ended at, through time.
There also will be a, I guess, I don't want to call it an infomercial, but it's more or less like a video that the township will be putting out as well, that will run on cable, that addresses a lot of the questions. So it's not like in a meeting format, but it's more of like in a produced format. So that should probably be out by the end of the month. We're currently working on that, and it's being finalized, so.
Good.
So how's it going to be presented?
What's that?
Just talked about.
It'll be on our Facebook page, and it'll be on the cable TV channel, and be on YouTube, so,
Much like we did for the roads,
right.
where we did the little videos, and
Okay.
similar to that concept.
I have a question on the Channel 12 Comcast. Is there I never looked at this, is there a listing of when things are going to be shown or no?
I don't think so.
No.
No,
You just have to randomly,
yeah.
Go there?
It's not like a TV guide on there, or anything,
Oh, there's no,
on demand.
if I see it at 2 in the morning, I'll give you a call.
well, what I'm asking is,
Right.
should you publish and make it available certain times and publish people?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'd have to ask them. I'm not sure if I'm sure they maintain a schedule, and they have, times in which certain things come on. But I think if you really want to watch it on demand, just go to YouTube, and you could pull up every meeting that you want and watch any specific parts of it that you want. You don't have to wait, to see certain portions that you want to see. So I think YouTube's probably your best option. It's all on there, on demand. So
Do the average citizens know that?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Is that on the website to point
make
people
sure-
to?
On the website, it
is.
says.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's also on
Yeah,
YouTube. Or
I don't know if that's common knowledge or not. I mean, it's published out there that it's available that way. I just don't know how many people know about it exactly. Maybe all of them know about it. Maybe none of them know about it. I don't know off the top of my head.
So one final question, it's the newspaper, the Grosse Ile Grand, it goes to everybody, right?
Correct.
Every
Every
house.
household.
And a matter of fact, I think that the new edition is on their website right now.
Oh,
So
Okay.
you might, I know I haven't gotten mine at home yet, but it is, the digital version of it is already up. So you can read your
Okay. Yeah, it
article,
should
and
be-
they're on there right now.
yeah, I think it comes out second week of the month, or, so it should be hitting your mailbox shortly.
Getting the word out, getting the information out is always a chore.
Well, I think you need to be diversified in the way that you get it out. I mean, not everybody goes to the same spot for information, so we're trying to,
Well, we can't get Channel 12, I don't know if that's available to everybody.
Okay.
we're trying to hit TV, we're trying to hit, the newspaper, we're trying to hit Facebook and YouTube, we're trying to, go about it a lot of different ways. Having the public hearings, public meetings, so, having it on our website, the different FAQs and stuff, so I think it's very important just to make sure everybody has as many opportunities to obtain the information to make an educated decision as possible. So, trying to hit a lot of different areas.
One final kind of thought,
I already had one question a little while ago.
gotta figure out how to speak to this. When I've been involved in, years ago, in introducing recycling programs, okay? And the most effective way of communicating to parents, to the homeowners, about what the recycling was going to be and how you go about it was through the kids. So actually, our community I was with years ago, we hired a recycling director, part-time, and she went to elementary schools and the junior high school and the high school and gave a presentation on it. And the word got back to everybody. Of course, the kids were excited about it. And I don't know if this is of something that those children that are going to live here far beyond any of us, potentially, this could be very meaningful to their lives, the lifeline of the toll bridge. And just a thought, maybe we want to have that discussed with school teachers to the children. It's something that affects our community. Just a thought. I don't know. That's another chore for you, I guess, but
Well, I know we are going out to like service groups. Matter of fact, I think the supervisor and myself are going to Rotary next Thursday, I think is what it is. So we can look at that as well and see whether, that something we want to do or not. But
if there's
appreciate
any
the
teacher
suggestion.
watching that would like to have this become an issue for all the teachers to learn about and to share with the kids, it'd be probably a good idea.
Well, I think this spring, maybe it was over the winter, I went and spoke to a group of government class students about, public service and, working for a municipality and working in government. Maybe it's an educational opportunity, even if it's just a one class about, the complexities with, public ownership of facilities and assets and, how this all works, right? So maybe it's an educational opportunity, if anything, where maybe a class is interested in that. So.
Yeah, okay. Any further discussion on that? Well, I know it's a big chore, and you guys are doing a good job as far as I can keep trying. Going down the table, Linda, anything?
No, not today.
Okay, go look at those roads.
I will.
Bill,
Nothing further.
Ray,
No,
Les?
nothing further, sir.
All right, well, thank you very much. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Moved and supported, we adjourn. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you.